Hey guys, this is Numeric Citizen here. You're starting with Craft. Here's 5 things you must do first. This video is recorded for people using the Mac version of Craft. Some of those settings that I'm going to change also applies to iPad or the Windows version of Craft. So let's get started with the first thing that you would do is go into Craft here and you select Settings. From there, you'll make sure that the name that you use for your account is the right one. You can change it whatever you like. And also, you make sure that if you configure the assistant to decide which one you want to use. I'm using the 4.0 version of ChatGPT. And then if you want to have some prompts that are pre-populated in the assistant /menu, then you can add those in this save prompt. So if you happen to use always the same prompt for doing some task with the Craft Assistant, then you can add those right there. The other thing is to configure the integrations. The integrations offered are currently limited to those. So if you are using one of those app or service, then you can configure those by connecting your currently used account. Also, in the appearance and sound, what you should do is consider using the theme that Craft will be used when you are either using a dark mode or not. Also, the accent color of the interface is configured there. I prefer to use the gray, this one here, but you can choose, again, whatever you would like. If you want to change the application icon, it's up to you. And also, you can use the enable sound because when using Craft on the Mac, if you happen to have a headset on your head or AirPods or something like that, you may notice that when you do some action in Craft, like checking off a checkmark item, you will hear a little sound. If you like those effects, then you can leave it there. But if you don't like those effects, then you can disable the option there. Also, you can reduce the animation and the transparency because Craft is using some fancy animation and user interface design. If you want to have a more standard, plain user interface, then you can check those two so that it becomes more like a standard Mac application. Also, make sure to define the default language for spelling in your documents. I'm using English Canada, but you have a choice of many more. And also select the language in which you are working in the app. The other thing is if you go in the advanced, this is where you will decide which font you want to use as a default. I'm also always using the system one by default. The regular page width is regular, but if you happen to use more often a lot wider document, then you can set it there. If you want to use the date formatting, I'll show you later what is a date badge. So if you want to use them instead of having a text for date, then you can set this option there. If you share many documents on the web, you can have the author name to be displayed by default. And this is something that I'm going to do because I don't know why it was set to disabled. When you strike a check mark as completed, which is a task, do you want to have a strike through or you want to have it faded or no effect at all? And also, if you want to use the select across multiple text block where you drag in the first text block and then you go down outside of the first text block and you want to span your selection across different text blocks, then you can enable this function here. For some reason, it's still in beta. It's been in this state for quite some time. But I decided to disable it because I think I had some issues with this feature, so I prefer to keep it disabled. The Craft extension are no longer developed for now. I think the Craft team paused the development of those, so I would suggest to disable that so you don't have those displayed anywhere in the Craft user interface. If you plan to use external locations, instead of always using the cloud-based storage for your document, then you can enable that here, and they will show up on the left sidebar. I'll show that later what it means. So this is the most of the application setting that you should consider visiting when you first start using Craft. Next up in the list of things to do is to make some changes to the Craft window itself. So as you can see, the left sidebar contains a lot of different items. This is the default smart folders. You can decide to decide which one you want to display. So if you go there, there's a little down arrow there, just not this one, but right there, you can click on that and then select Customize Sidebar. If you happen to use, or if you intend to use a calendar integration so that you can see your calendar events or appointments inside Craft daily notes, then this is something that you should consider adding, so you can see that it will add up here in the sidebar. So personally, I don't use Craft daily notes anymore. I don't use either any kind of integration with my calendar, so I prefer to keep that off. If you are using Start Document, because it's a great way to access quickly any documents that you are working on, so you can display those. I suggest that you keep the unsorted folder, smart folder, to be enabled, because by default, if you don't pay attention, you create a new document, this is where the document will end up. And also, if you plan to use Craft templates, again, keep this option on. And also, if you publish documents as web page, this is something that Craft is very good at. So you could keep this option there. If you don't plan to share anything, then just keep it off, and then it will kind of make the sidebar less crowded on the left here. So that's for the sidebar. Now that the application settings are configured, this is only for the Mac version of Craft. The next thing is to configure some aspect of Craft that actually sits in the cloud, and this is the theme settings. So I'll exit this presentation mode. And to access the theme settings, if you go over there in the theme switcher menu, you can select here, select settings and members. But the thing is, if you select that, you won't be getting the theme settings itself. You will be getting the currently selected space setting, and this is not what we want to do. So I'll click on that and I'll come back here. If you notice, there is a little icon there. So you click on that, and this is a quite different screen that you will get. So all the spaces that you have configured in your Craft environment will be displayed there. Obviously, I've been using Craft for a long time, so this is why I have 4 spaces. Otherwise, you would get only 1 space within your theme. The first thing you have to know is you go in the settings here, and the first thing is to set the name of your theme. Even if you are using Craft alone, this is something that you can or should do. The Craft theme logo is used if you are branding some of your shared document on the web. So for those who are sharing documents on the web, there is this little icon on the top right corner of every document, and this logo can be changed to your own if you are using the business plan, the old one, or if you are using the other subscription where you can select the logo there. And if you want, you can once the logo has been uploaded, you can decide to enable or disable this logo, and this is for all the shared documents. It's not only on a per document, but it's for every document that you will be sharing on the web. If people are clicking on this document, on this little logo, then you can set a URL where people will be transferred to once they click on that logo. So I use my this URL here. If you want to set your custom subdomain, this is something that every craft user are getting. You click on that and you can change the default subdomain so that every shared document with other people will be under this name and followed by the .craft.me. So this is something that you can change or set. And also, if you are on the old business plan, or if you are at the top level other subscription plan, you can have a custom domain. If you click on that, you will be transported to the website of Craft, because this is something that only can be changed in the web interface of Craft. And this is where you will be able to set a custom domain under which every shared documents will be sitting behind, kind of thing. So that's pretty much it for those settings. Remember earlier I told you about there's a way to reduce animation and transparency in Craft. If this is something that you want to disable, this would be the effect that you can see here. For example, when you switch between all the spaces, this is the animation and the transparency effect that you will get, that you can disable, and it will be more plain instead of having this fancy animation. Personally, I like that a lot. So that's for the team setting. If you want to have more users that access to your team, this is where you will be able to invite other people. But keep in mind that there might be charge for that. So that's for the team settings. Now that you have your team settings configured, the next step is to visit the default space setting so that you can make it more tailored to your liking. So again, I'll exit this presentation mode by hitting the escape key, and then I'll go back here. If you select that, like I said earlier, you select this and it will go in the setting for the currently selected space. So I'll go there. And then you see the number of people that are actually member of this space. And since this is a default one, I am alone in this space. And also, if you click on that, this is where you'll get your setting. You can change the space name here if you want. You can change that later. If you change your mind, there's no issue in changing that later. If you want to have a team logo or icon that you want to use for this specific space, then you can click on that and it will you will be presented with a open box dialog box so that you can upload a graphic file so that it becomes the new logo. This is where, by the way, you will see the storage space consumption depending on your subscription tier. Since I'm using the Business Pro subscription, this is the 100 gigabyte that I'm getting, and this is the currently used storage. Regarding notification, if you share some documents with other people and they make some comments on the web, then you can decide to enable or disable the push notification that you will receive inside Craft or on your Mac or your iPad or your iPhone. If you want to receive email notification instead, this is where you will set it. You can enable or disable those two settings independently, depending on your liking. And the last thing that I want to mention, which is very important, is the use of the Craft Assistant. Some people will think that or prefer not to be able to use the Craft Assistant because it means that some private information is being transmitted to the ChatGPT backend. If you don't like that or you don't want to risk any data leak, then I would suggest to disable the assistant altogether, and this is done on a space by space basis. So that's pretty much the settings for the space setting. If you go there and you go on another like this one here, and you hit again the space, this is the space for the settings for the newly selected space, which is here the playground one, and you can set your environment differently depending on your needs. Next up, if you are done with the default space settings section, now it's time to consider how you want to organize your content in Craft. And I must say that there is no single answer for this question, because it's very dependent of what are the use cases for Craft in each for each person. So I would say that the idea of using folders in Craft is to organize your content. So I'll show you what it means actually. So here in the left sidebar, as you saw earlier in this video, those folders are what we call smart folders, and you have no control over those. But don't pay attention to the objects section here, because I'm using a beta version of Craft, which contains the famous and very powerful game changer objects that should be coming sometime this fall. What I want you to focus on is the folders section here, where you can create a folder, give it a name, give it an icon, and then change the color and a description for this folder. So personally, when I'm using that, I'm trying to keep the number of top-level folders to the minimum, as you can see here. And each folder contains a colorful icon so that it's prettier to look at. But if I go down the section here, and like in that place, you will see that usually the icon over there are monochromatic instead of being colorful. It's a matter of I would say preference, but this is the way I'm using Craft folders in Craft. So again, remember that if you click on that, you see this folder content view on the right, and the description here that goes there is the one that you will be giving on this section when you are editing the about. This is where you can set the header of the folder view, like this one here. So again, using folders in Craft is, I think, the last part of any customization of your Craft environment. It's very user dependent and use case dependent. I've seen a lot of different ways of organizing folders. And I would say that keep the depth of the organization structure to the minimum, so that maybe you have another one folder and inside another folder, so that you keep the depth of the hierarchy to the minimum. So like here, there is another one level, but down there is nothing more. So there is only, it's an only two level folder in this organization. So, and again, remember that those folders are space dependent. So you can switch to another space and then add a complete different folder organization. This is the beauty of Craft. So it's very easy to organize your content between different spaces and within a specific space to have a very specific folder structure. The last portion of the configuration of your Craft environment is relating to the use of external locations. Instead of using the cloud-based storage for your documents, you can use the external location. And by external location, it means that you can store your documents locally on your Mac. And so that if you are using multiple devices, then you will have to make sure that the place you will place your documents are syncable between those two devices. And in my case, I use the iCloud drive from the iCloud storage on my Mac. And if I select the same folder on all my machine, then the content will be synced across each other, but they won't be using the Craft storage in their cloud, but in your own environment. You are not obligated to put those external location in a cloud-based location. You can simply put that on a local drive on your machine, and then in that case the content won't sync up for obvious reason, and it's more secure, provided that you are using local encryption enabled on your Mac environment, so that it is fully protected against any unauthorized access. So this is the last portion of the configuration of Craft. If you really want to use a dedicated space that is not available on the cloud, then this is the use of the external location feature that will allow you to do that. So the last thing to do when you start using Craft is to enjoy using Craft. So that's it for today's video. I hope that you learn a few things along the way. Even if you are not a starter of user of Craft, maybe you learned something anyway, so I'm happy for that. If you have any question or comments, feel free to post them below this video. If you are not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, consider subscribing now so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. So thank you guys for being there and watching until the very end, and see you guys for another one soon. Bye.